Welcome to Revolutionary Motion, where we show you tennis from a different perspective. In today's video, we're going to explain to you why feel is so important on the tennis court. So first of all, let's talk about what feel actually is. A lot of people have heard it, but most people don't really know what it means. And our definition of feel is that you're able to control the ball to do what you want it to do, no matter if you're hitting the ball hard or soft, and no matter what type of spin, or maybe possibly even no spin, you want to give the ball. Now, this is obviously not very easy for most players because it requires a huge amount of practice to actually feel the ball. And some people think they have feel for the ball because they can hit the ball 5 times in a row deep to the baseline on the other side. Now, there's a big difference here because people that can hit the ball like that, they just trained one specific scenario. They work more like a machine. They don't work with feel. So if you're trying to actually get feel for the ball, you need to create all different types of scenarios with your tennis shots. Now, why is this so important? Feel on the tennis court is very important because there's various situations in a match where feel is required for you to find a good way out to win the point. Now, this might not happen in every single point, sometimes not even in every single game you can win matches without feel. But many times, if you're playing a tight match, and let's say it's 6-6 in the tiebreak, and the point, keeps dragging on, your opponent gets this fabulous idea of playing a drop shot out of nowhere that then makes you run forward and you don't know what to do with the ball because you're not reaching it where you can actually smash it. So now feel would be very, very useful because you could either play a drop shot, over the net, short cross court, short down the line, or push it, just squeeze the ball deep to the baseline into the backhand corner, whatever you want to do with it. Or if you're really good at it, you could even wait to see where your opponent is moving and just push the ball to the other corner. Now, again, this seems like it's a very situational application. But I promise you, it happens at least 5 to 10 times in most matches. So now, how do you get better at getting feel? Most tennis players that grow up playing a lot of tennis, they develop feel in the process. And the reason for that is because they're doing little exercises, most of them not even knowingly, that help them to develop feel. One of those exercises that I, for example, growing up always did, when I was waiting for my coach to arrive, or for whoever I was playing with to arrive at the courts, I was playing around with a tennis ball. I was just maybe bouncing it on top of the racket on the side, maybe bouncing it on the edge of the racket, right? Or I was just throwing the ball up and trying to catch it without it bouncing back up off of my racket. Now, these little things help you to feel how the ball hits your racket a bit better, and to get used to how much resistance there has to be on your racket to either absorb all the power or to give it a certain amount of power back to make the ball do a certain thing. Another thing that a lot of people do is just going up to the net and doing the following. So a lot of times we would try to practice to just spin the ball over the net and have it come back. Now here, for example, I failed. I didn't make it all the way back over the net, right? And obviously, the more you practice this, the better you get at it. Like here, for example, was much easier for me, the ball came back. And then you're trying to do many of those in a row, so you get a feeling for how much backspin you have to give the ball and how much forward or upwards force you have to give the ball to actually make it bounce back over the net. If you give it too much backspin, it might bounce back into the net. If you don't give it enough, it might not come back to you. Now, these little exercises, they seem kind of unimportant, but I promise you they help immensely to build up a certain amount of feel for, first of all, slices, but also for the amount of power that is required on your shots to do certain things. Now, one more exercise that is super important to, create a lot more feel for your tennis shots is mini tennis. Now, there's a couple different exercises you can do with that. Obviously, one of them is, that bounce game that you've seen Djokovic do in his training units. And that's obviously a bit more advanced. It's very difficult. But then there's also just, regular, pretty much foursquare, but just with 2 people, where you're playing in both service boxes, no volleys allowed. You're rolling the ball over the net to start the point, and then you try to play out the point. Now, most people I see doing this that don't know how to do this properly, they hit the ball decently hard with no spin and just try to place it. That's one aspect of this game, that you're trying to place the ball. But an even more important aspect is that you make the ball do what you want it to do. So for example, you need to be able to play a short ball with a lot of backspin, right? Sometimes you want to hit a ball that bounces back towards you. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you want to hit a lower drop shot that, it's not in the air for as long because it's lower, but it also doesn't come back to you because the impact angle on the ground is a bit more flat, so it skids a little bit on the ground. Now you need to be able to cause both of those slices. That helps you again to control balls in a different way for different types of scenarios. For example, you will not see Alcaraz, when he plays his drop shot, hit a drop shot that bounces back over the net to his side. Why? He could probably do that, but then first of all, he wouldn't be able to disguise it for as long, and second of all, the ball would have to be in the air for a way longer time, which allows the opponent to have more time to actually get to that drop shot and catch it before it comes back over the net. So he chooses to hit his drop shots a bit lower with a little bit more forward force, still with a decent amount of backspin, but he knows that the drop shot will not bounce and come back to him because he doesn't need that. He banks on the fact that his opponent is surprised by his drop shot because he has such a killer forehand. So that means because he knows that his opponent will start running late, he just needs a ball that doesn't stay in the air for very long in order to win the point. If he plays a high drop shot with a lot of backspin that then has an impact angle that allows the ball to bounce back, his opponent will get there and he will lose most of those points. So he perfected the way that he plays his drop shots considering his game. There are other situations where you want that backspin. For example, if you're not surprising your opponent and your opponent is very, very far back, because if the ball comes back to you, obviously your opponent has to cover even more distance. So you can see here, feel helps you to find a solution for a lot of different scenarios on the tennis court. And that's really what it's all about, because every single tennis match is different, every opponent is different, and every point is different from the last one. So you need to be able to improvise and create different types of shots depending on the scenario that you're facing in that specific moment.
Hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys soon.